I love life. It's snowing! Welcome to episode 2 of the Safari GTR project. Now we've made a lot of headway, but today is going to be the most important part of the build, and that is the tire, wheel, suspension package. The intentions of this car are still a little bit unknown because I don't really know where it's going to perform best. Gravel, snow, off-road, rally, rocks, mountains, and I'm not an off-road person, so there's quite a bit of unknowns here. Maybe you guys can help me out a little bit, but I've done some research and I'm going to walk you through the plan. One of the most exciting things was getting to see this bad boy up in this wheel well and get an idea of what this thing's gonna actually look like. So this tire right here is Nitto's Nomad Grappler. It's actually designed for crossover utility vehicles, and for our case, it's available in many different sizes, so if this doesn't work, we have different options to choose from. Couple key highlights: it's really good off-road. Nitto's blockings makes it really quiet on the road. It's good in rain. It's triple snowflake certified, so it'll be good in the snow. And we have 2 different sidewalls to choose from. One that's a little more aggressive and one that's, I don't know, a little more geometrical. Because of the fact that I'm trying to keep the GTR all-wheel drive, one of our limiting factors when it comes to raising the car is going to be the front axle. If I raise it too much, not only does that start to throw off the geometry of the front end, but we start to run into issues with axles hitting things, axles popping out and binding. So rather than getting all of our lift from the suspension, I did some math. The stock GTR wheels are around 26 inches. These tires are around 28 inches. So we'll get about 1 inch of lift just from the tires alone without affecting any arm angles, without affecting the axle placement. The only thing we'll be affecting is clearance. We're kind of rolling the dice on. As an example, these are the wheels that came on the car. They are a little bit bigger than stock, but you can see when you actually put the off-road tire next to it, it's really not that different. And you gotta remember too, this is like on the ground, so if they were centered, we're talking like I know it's gonna work.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna work.
Hopefully.
The theme of this build is it's gonna work great or it's not gonna work at all, but it's gonna be fun and we're gonna try. My fellow off-roadians may be thinking, why didn't you go with a smaller wheel, Adam? The more tire, the better. Front brakes on the GTR, they are designed to clear 16-inch wheels. That's what they come with from the factory. I was actually trying to find factory GTR wheels. People want a ridiculous amount of money for them. We got a quick timeline. This car literally needs to be done in a week, and that includes all of the holiday breaks and stuff. So by going up to a 17-inch wheel, that opened us up to many options, of which are the wheels that I'm going to be using on this build. Yep, Nismo LMGT2s, baby. But hear me out. These wheels are 17 by 8. The sets usually come staggered with 17 by 8, 17 by 9. The 17 by 9s are what I like because the 17 by 8s look stupid. We want a narrower wheel since the tire that we're using is a 215/65, and they'll protect the wheel with the tire. And as we dive deeper in this build, you'll realize there's a bit of a Nismo theme going on with it. I want to emphasize, this is not me trying to destroy an R32 GTR. I'm going to honor it, and I'm going to find a new way to enjoy it. I want to add a disclaimer that the colorway on this wheel or the other wheel is probably not what we're going to end up going with. However, one's light and one's dark, which should kind of give us an idea of what looks good on the car. We've got a lot of different prismatic powders to choose from, so hopefully you guys can help us make the decision there. Nonetheless, I want to get them mounted up, start seeing what we're dealing with fitment-wise. I like this tread. That's the one for me. Why? I don't know. This just looks so wrong. This is like the first time I've ever mounted a tire this big on the machine.
You won't even need that.
I was gonna say, watch this be the easiest tire I've ever mounted.
You literally won't even need that.
You don't think?
No. It's so flexible.
Oh, I forgot Mike used to work at Tire Rack.
Well, Sears Auto Center, baby.
Bro, Sears?
Yeah,
That's
dude.
crazy.
Hell yeah.
Pepperidge Farm remembers Sears. People from Connecticut remember Pepperidge Farms.
And Pepperidge Farms remember Sears.
Who makes the bagels? Thomas.
Thomas. Yeah, that's my little brother, dude.
It's also the Grinch who stole Christmas. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm saying. Yeah, that's sick.
You know what's kind of cool about it? So all of the Porsche guys use, I'm not authentic enough to know how to say it. Fuchs? Fuchs? Fuchs?
Yeah, yes.
No, bleep that last one. We'll hit you.
No, that's the right way to say it.
But they all use it on their Safari Porsches, and it's kind of like, well, actually, I don't know if they're just like replicas of them or what. But they're bringing heritage into the Safari, and the LMGT2s brings heritage into the Safari. It kind of looks like something you'd see on someone's 4Runner, doesn't it?
It does.
Shout out to my 4Runner peeps. We might be reaching a new market with the off-road videos, honestly.
Yeah, maybe. You gonna put a whittle ladder on the back?
A ladder?
Yeah, a whittle
For
ladder.
what?
For climbing on your roof.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, that's off-road people thing.
Well, that's a first.
Yeah, that's a big gap.
This is a new problem that I don't face with stance. All right, next up.
Money.
Hell yeah, baby.
Quietest bead seat ever.
Yeah, for real. This is so cool. I love life. Let's see if we achieved what I was looking for. Will the sidewall protect the rim?
Yeah.
The thing is, you see rocks. They're not shaped like a flat floor, so they're gonna f the rim up. But it's okay. I'm in it for the long haul, as Drake would say. It looks perfect. I'm glad I didn't do 9s.
Yeah.
Should we see if we can do it without tire? Try. Let me not crush my hands though. Oh yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Bro, they should charge way less for mountain truck tires. If that's not like all hard.
Yep.
Jeez. I don't think silver's it. The bronze looks intentional. The silver just looks like laziness.
Yeah.
Sporty boy chose the wrong size wheel. Mind you, the LMGT2 is definitely going to be really sunk for GTR, but I think that's going to help us when it comes to fender clearance and stuff, since it's not a drift car. So might need spacers, but I'd rather have a more sunk wheel than something that pokes out too far.
Looks sick.
Doesn't look like clearance is going to be a big issue either.
No. If anything, I feel like maybe trim the front bumper a tad when you're turning.
Yeah, I kind of want to mock everything up and then see in the air, since that'll kind of give us an idea of like droop.
Yeah.
We've encountered our first problem. I don't know if you guys saw my Instagram story, but we've recently discovered that Johan is an absolute pro on the ring. Is it Gran Turismo?
Yeah.
So you hopped on the sim the other day and like literally all of us have our jaws on the floor watching him absolutely shredding. Dude, this thing's ridiculous.
Oh, it's gnarly. It's crazy.
Alright guys, this is your reminder that every $5 you spend on LZMFG or DriftHQ.com is going to get you entered for a chance to win a Podium 1 Ultimate Simulator just like this one, where we're going to custom spec it out to your needs. Pretty cool giveaway, we've all been having a blast with it. I'll put more information in the description. The tire rubs the rear upper, well, the tire rubs the front upper, tire rubs the front thing.
Front upper control arm?
The front, yeah, but they call it some weird thing in GTR term. It's like the front upright.
Okay, so it's like a knuckle, like upper knuckle.
But we're hella sunk, so I think I can confidently stick a spacer on there and we'll be all right.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll shoot with a 20 mil for first, but ideally I want it as close to that as possible, because the more sunk the wheel, the less clearance issues we'll have, versus if it's poking out a lot, there'll be a higher scrub radius. The closer it is inward, the more it pivots on the same axis as the knuckle, and the less issue we'll have with like bumpers, rear area, and all that. Just to be a little bit more illustrative, this is really, really important when you're dealing with a drift car or even a stance car that has limited clearance issues. When I say scrub radius, small scrub radius would be like it has a pivot point in the middle. This would be higher offset wheels, where when you start sticking spacers and stuff on it, when you turn the wheel, instead of like this, it's traveling like this. Which, that was a very exaggerated thing, but
yeah,
just trying to illustrate the concept so you know what I'm talking about. So we're gonna start off with a 15 mil and see where that does. 15 mil spacer did the trick, and now in retrospect looking at it, I'm really glad that I didn't go with a taller tire, because that front upright would have created a real problem. We're not touching, right?
No.
It's probably, like I could probably space it out a little bit more, but we know our minimum point now.
Yeah.
All right, now the moment of truth. How are we looking clearance-wise? We could pretend that this is like, I don't think this will be full droop. Full droop might honestly be higher, but
yeah,
look in the back, dude. No issues whatsoever. Even this area that you usually have to like hammer in, not hitting. Front, no issues up here. This might be an issue under compression. So when we get into the suspension point in the video, I'll show you how I'm gonna figure out where we're gonna set our bump stops. And oh man, it would have been nice to clearance the chassis before we undercoated everything, huh? And before we painted the engine bay. I think we'll be all right.
You're close to the sway bar, but you're not hitting it.
Sick. How does it look like fitment wise? I mean, it's gonna be sunk, but that's okay.
It's like maybe a width load on the car, maybe 2-inch.
That looks funny.
Yeah.
Imagine I put non-GTR fenders on a GTR.
Imagine.
It actually wouldn't be a terrible idea. Because you would keep the rear.
Right.
Because like we don't need it to have all that extra clearance in front.
Right.
I have them.
Yeah, but you don't have them wrapped.
A boy can try.
True.
All you need to do is buy more E36s and it'll give me more free wraps. I have those look hella sunk. That's gonna be a problem. But my scrub radius is gonna create a problem, because then this right now that isn't that big of a problem will become a way bigger problem.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna move the wheel way more forward. All right, so we've got our happy spot.
And that's 15 mil spacer?
Yep.
So we know 15 works.
So this is why you build the car first and then you wrap and paint and do all that after to avoid situations like this. Like worst case scenario, we'll be able to do a little bit of cutting and trimming. I don't think GTRs have adjustable caster. Oh, actually, yeah. I could just push that traction rod back a little bit. I don't know how that'll affect how it drives, but knowing Tommy is probably not set up to drive right anyway right now. So. Not that he wouldn't do that, it's just this was like a shell, you know?
Yeah.
So, all right, I can do that. That'll get us something.
Try that first.
Yeah, before I cry. Doesn't look like we'll have any clearance issues here. I was worried that it might get kind of close to there, but yeah. I really feel like 28 inches is the perfect tire height for your GTR Safari build needs. God, the front looks so cool. I'm so hyped. Now before we get into figuring out the suspension setup on this car, it's very important to have the full weight in it, which means putting the engine in the car. So we're gonna cut to some footage of Sean getting the engine in the car, and then we'll dive into the suspension.
It's snowing!
Sean vlogs are back, baby.
I guess.
What have you been working on?
We're doing the fuel system on the R32, the Safari car.
Yeah.
We got the radium top hat up in there. And then I ran a 8AN line and a 6AN line down from that up to the front of the car. The radium kit comes with these sick brackets that bolt to each other and then to the chassis.
Yeah,
So,
they're like perfect.
yeah, the fuel lines can't go anywhere. And then we got our content sensor from Link and our fuel pressure sensor from Link and then our radium fuel filter. So we got all that mounted on the rail and set the engine in and make the rest of the fuel lines from the content sensor and the fuel filter to the engine.
Yeah, once it's all in the car. Sick.
I wait till the noise, I know the noise. All right, we got the engine back in for the final time. Gonna start dressing it up and putting all the tiny little pieces that's left. Tomorrow, Johan will do intercooler piping and exhaust, like a down pipe to the rest of the exhaust. And then wiring, we got the fuel lines ran today, so just a few more things and we should be ready to start this thing within a couple of days.
Looks sick as hell in there.
Yeah, I like the green on the white.
Right, it's a good color combo.
Gotta make oil lines, run power steering lines, and like 2 or 3 more days and this thing will run, I promise.
Hell yeah.
So we'll see if we can get it running before Christmas. That'll be Adam's Christmas present.
Right.
It's snowing!
All right, now the most important part of this Safari car, being able to do great things and hit rocks and go fast and slide around, is a suspension. And luckily enough, BC Racing will custom spec out your coilovers absolutely for free. But I'm guessing it's not common that people ask for Safari spec R32 GTR coilovers. So what we did is we started off by utilizing longer shocks that are going to target a ride height approximately 1 to 2 inches over stock. Now again, this is the first iteration of the car. Maybe we'll need more lift, maybe we won't. But when it comes to redesigning suspension arms, messing with the angle of tie rods and all that stuff, I didn't want to get too complicated. So my idea was to go 1 inch of tire height gain, 1 inch to 2 inches of suspension gain. But I will say with spring rates, I need to take some measurements before we get them dialed in. These are just placeholders right now. I want to target to actually have just slightly stiffer than stock, which on this car is like a 2 or a 3K, but have a dual stage spring. So there'll be a second spring up top. There will be about double that spring rate. So instead of hitting bump stops on really soft springs, we'll have a soft spring so the suspension can have a lot of travel and soak up all the bumps on the road. And then the upper spring will be used more so for preventing the wheel from hitting things, preventing suspension components from maxing out without just hitting a bump stop. One thing that's gonna come in handy is BC Racing's new premium spanner wrench set. We're gonna be adjusting the height a lot on this thing to get it right. Sheesh. If you're a big ride height guy, you wanna have a set of these. Don't get fatigue on your fingers. Available now on the BC Racing website. I'll put a link in the description. Look at that. Sheesh. Sheesh. So, as an example, we can see the existing suspension that was in there and how much longer the custom spec BCs we have. And mind you, this is them fully low. Max low is what it's set at right now.
That will help a
Yep. I actually found I had some softer springs in my stash, so I'm gonna start off with a 5K in the front, which I know will be a lot closer towards what I'm aiming for. We just obviously won't have the secondary spring to prevent it from hitting like I want. Not a bad starting point for max low full droop.
Yeah,
That's pretty sick. Clearance looks epic now. I'm so excited.
I just want to see this thing rip around here.
I know, it's gonna look so funny. But I think it's also gonna drive great, or terrible.
What'll be sick is you won't feel like anything on the road. You'll have so much tire to absorb all of that.
Yo, I'm gonna go to Starbucks and I'm gonna jump over the curb. You know the curb I'm talking about?
Yes, I do, yeah.
That's gonna be so cool. Bro, I just realized what rich dudes use Safari Porsches for. There's a ton of spring tension on all these bushings, so I'm gonna crack them all loose since we're gonna be finding a new center point for the suspension versus its previously loose.
Hot off the press.
It's hot already.
O2 bong.
Saddle O2 style. Like it because it's easier to weld and looks better.
Yeah.
It looks weird, but it's better. Just gotta weld that on there. Then I might add a B-band down here, and then it'll be down pipe, then mid pipe. On the S15, the green S15, we have it like that. But just for ease of service, I think it's better just to make it into two piece. But right now I have this going in the direction it needs to. So this right here is below the car,
Yeah.
along the firewall, and then the floor.
Right.
So depending on where I add a B-van, it doesn't change anything. If anything, it gives me more room to clock it and
Yeah.
be dead on. I'll weld this on, and then I could make the mid pipe, which it shouldn't be as long as this. Done. At this here, you could tell somewhat the welds on this two joints here look better than the rest. Gotta do partly with the material not being clean or like sanded like I normally do. So that just shows you like, you know, it still gets a decent weld.
Yeah.
And it's bad first, so it will help with cracking and all that stuff.
Welds it on the inside, right?
Yeah.
Like the
if
weld
you-
goes fully through the metal.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're like fully penetrating.
Yeah.
So now this is done. Gotta now do the rest of the pipe.
And I want to make it clear that this is one of the first times ever I've gotten with Johan and I've said, hey Johan, don't give me your best work on this. I just want it done fast. You don't need to go super OCD. And this is Johan's version of a fast downpipe. Still literally a piece of art. I don't think Johan can do anything bad.
Not about doing nothing bad. You could tell some of the welds I was like welding fast, so the gas coverage wasn't good.
It still looks great.
But like the weld at the end of the day will come out decent if your fit up is good. So like fit up is pretty much what I pay attention to, and then when he tells me to rush it, then I just.
Well, it still looks amazing. It's a compliment. Yeah. Not bad.
No.
For LZ not really knowing. So I just did this because I like the black edge on this.
Yeah.
Oh man, I missed a little corner of red here. A little black Sharpie won't fix. A mud flap's gonna end up covering this anyway. I don't really know how that's gonna look. Potentially something like this, but this mud flap will give us the mounting point for the stuff to attach.
Yeah.
And then it kind of like ties in with that line.
Yeah, that looks sick.
All right, here's our first look at what I think is going to wind up being the ride height of the R32 GTR Safari. Mind you, this is not its final spring rates. Right now, the spring rates are actually pretty soft. I'm like 4 and 5K. The problem is I'm worried if there's a big bump that it could hit the chassis. Right now, from the top of the tire to the first point of contact in the chassis, I've got about 4.5 inches of clearance. But when I jack this thing up in the front, it has a ton of droop too, which is going to be key for like going over lots of bumps and stuff. But what's interesting is frame rail to ground, we have, or I'll go from pinch weld because that's almost the lowest point in the car. 10.5 inches in the front and the rear. It's about equal right now. And if we compare it to this GTR, which I'll say is probably on the lower side, this one has 6.5 inches. So we've got about 4 inches of extra clearance. Obviously, compared to stock, it's probably closer to 2 inches. But I think it looks pretty good.
It does.
I think it's gonna ride pretty good. The only thing I'm a little bit concerned about is just the front arc that we're gonna have going on.
Mm-hmm.
Might need to trim a little bit of this bumper, maybe make a bracket that will like hold it out a little bit more. I think that would actually help a lot. Because I want to space the wheel out a tiny bit more. It's really close to that front upright to where if the tire's deflecting or moving around, it could rub. And if you want to kind of get an idea of what it's gonna look like once it gets the mud flaps, these will probably go something like this. I don't know how low we'll have them set up or down. That would go like that, and then we'd have one back here. Does that add to the look?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So that'll be more of a, I'll call it an aesthetic mod. There's quite a few other Safari type mods this thing is gonna get, but the suspension's a big one, and I want you to see the angle of the axles and the arms right now. Another important thing to keep in mind when you're raising a car, and especially if the arm is going from being directed up like this to being like this, you're essentially amplifying the spring rate because of how the arm's oriented. So a 6K spring might be a little bit softer than 6K if it's really low, but it starts to get stiffer when you get higher. But the axle angle right now isn't terrible.
No, it's straight.
I don't hate it.
Yeah.
Everything looks pretty solid. The tie rod isn't terrible. Obviously when it gets to full droop, it gets a little hairy. And then in the rear, like it doesn't look that abnormal. I think getting the inch from the tire helps a lot.
Yeah.
And like the down the road plan is if we needed more clearance, we could just drop the subframes, which would retain the arm angle. But my favorite thing about this, I want to show you how much droop this car has because it's ridiculous. That's where the long travel BCs come in play. Bet you never did this with your GTR. How funny is that?
Oh yeah. Straight up monster trucking.
That's quite a bit of travel.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I'm pretty excited. I think it's gonna drive pretty good. That's it for this one. We're obviously gonna be on Christmas break for a little bit, so the next update on this thing may be like a mid to late next week. I might play with the Legend car in the meantime. I've got some stuff I want to do, and I got a buddy from down south who's an expert with tiny little engines who wants to come up and play with my carbs with me. So I got a couple of little things with that, so I might dive into that while we wait to get to the next phase of this. But the next video, you might even hear this thing running. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you're stoked as I am on this thing, and I'll see you soon.
It's snowing!
Oh, I forgot Mike used to work at Tire Rack. Sears. Bro, Sears?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Hell yeah.
Pepperidge Farm remembers here. People from Connecticut remember that.